guys, welcome back to my channel for another week of What's for Dinner videos. This week I made a lot of different meals, a lot of different recipes to share with you guys. All of my food was super simple though. I feel like everything was so quick and easy, but it turned out so good and so delicious. All of the meals were winners. There were no complaints from my family this week at all. Most of them are things that you either had before or heard of before. There was one thing I did some vegetarian tacos. I cooked some mushrooms kind of fajita style, and I'm the only one that ate those. I just didn't care for the meat that I was serving. You'll see when we get to Taco Tuesday on here. But anyway, let's just go ahead and jump right in, and I will share all the recipes I made this week.
Gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today, and I will leave my windows open so that I can.
Alright guys, so just realized that my batteries died and I did not even realize it. I chopped up that shallot like a nice fine chop, put it in the bowl with the turkey, salt, pepper, and I started chopping up some spinach when I realized that my camera was off. So I am mid-chop in some spinach, about to add some dill, so we're gonna jump back in now that you guys know what's up. Alright, now that I am back on track, my camera's filming, everything's the way it should be. Let's get this dinner made. This actually turned out to be one of my favorite meals of the past week. This was so packed full of flavor, but so healthy at the same time. I mean, that turkey was lean and it was packed full of protein, had a lot of fresh vegetables going on here, and the flavor was just insane. So on my cutting board, I have some spinach that I had chopped up pretty finely, and then I went ahead and added some fresh dill to it. Of course, you could add in anything that you want to. If you have kale or something like that, you could toss that in, or you could leave out green leafy vegetables entirely. You could use dehydrated dill, in your spice cabinet. I'm also tossing in some parsley. I'm using fresh because I had it and I needed to use it up. But again, I mean, if you just have the stuff in your spice cabinet, that works great too. I'm kind of just winging this recipe. I'm making it similar to how I make kofta, which I actually used to make a whole lot. I haven't made it in quite some time, but it is definitely one of my family's favorites. I use ground beef to make it just because you're supposed to use ground lamb. I have a hard time finding ground lamb where I live, so I tend to use ground beef, but it's pretty similar to this. It's got garlic and onion and parsley and cumin in it. It's a really, really good ground meat mixture, and then we like to throw ours on the grill. I will try to make that here in the near future just because it is so delicious. So to my ground turkey, I did just toss in a big tablespoon of minced garlic, and then some oregano, some smoked paprika, and some curry powder. And then I realized my curry powder was not open. I had to stop and go take that little paper tab thing off. That curry powder brought like almost a sweetness to this. It's hard to explain, but it was really like the perfect thing to add into this. I would not have added it into like kofta or any kind of ground beef or anything like that, but it was absolutely fantastic with the ground turkey. I also tossed in a little bit of Worcestershire sauce because it has like a big full-bodied flavor that I wanted, and an egg and some breadcrumbs, and that's more just to kind of bind everything together and make the patties work. I didn't quite add enough breadcrumbs, so I'm going to do some more. I'm doing this by feel as I mix the meat together. So what I want is for the ground turkey to be able to form into patties and kind of hold its shape. I don't want it to be like too hard or too dry or anything, so I am being cautious with the breadcrumbs, but I definitely want to be able to form this. So here I am just making patties out of it. So this was like a pound of ground turkey. I'm going to make 4 patties. Did I make 4? No, I think I made 3 patties actually. They were good sized patties. They were very, very good sized, but this was our main entree. I didn't have a whole ton of sides. It was just some vegetables to go with it, and the vegetables were on the smaller side. So there's plenty of meat to go around for just my husband, myself, and my oldest. My younger 2 ate something completely different. So on to the mushrooms. These are a side dish I made I needed to use these. They were in my fridge and they were starting to look a little sad. My oldest and myself, we love mushrooms, so I just sliced them thickly, tossed them into a skillet with a little bit of olive oil, and then I'm just going to season them and saute them down. Going to give them lots of good flavor. I've got some salt and some pepper, and I always like to start with that because I like for the mushrooms to cook down a little bit, and the salt pulls out some of their natural juices and helps them just kind of start to cook down. I'm going to throw in some garlic because mushrooms are really good with garlic, and we'll let that kind of just saute for a little bit. My pan was looking a little bit dry, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more oil. Nothing sticking, I just felt like it was dry. Then I'm also going to toss in some Worcestershire sauce. I love the stuff. It's got this big, bold, rich flavor. If you don't like it, you could skip it or, put in soy sauce instead or something. I'm also adding some nutritional yeast. I had just purchased it when I made this meal and I wanted to try it, and I thought this would be the perfect thing because I heard it was like a big, bold umami flavor, and what better to use that on than mushrooms. Turns out it was a good call. That is amazing on mushrooms. I went pretty light on it. I could have gone heavier. I learned that now. But if you don't have it, no worries. Just add some salt and pepper. Not a big deal. On to the turkey patties. I had let them kind of sit and rest for just a few minutes because I wanted the flavors to kind of meld together a little bit. I wanted the garlic to release a little bit of flavor in there, some of my spices, stuff like that. And then I just put a little bit of oil on my grill pan and I'm just going to let them cook. And there I'm showing you I've got that little veggie saute mix that I bought from H-E-B. It was in a grocery haul from about a week or so ago. And it was really good. I got it on sale for $1.50. It doesn't make a whole ton of vegetables, but man, the flavors are so good. The little sauce pack that they include in there is really, really good. I had actually purchased 2 of these. One of them I just made for my lunch. This one I made to go on the side. I would get them again, but they're normally like $6 a piece, and I just kind of don't feel like paying for them. But if they were on sale again, I will totally pick them up. As you can see, I let the turkey patties brown on both sides. Tons of flavor. There's some tzatziki sauce I made homemade to dip them in. That was such an amazing and healthy meal. Okay, so here's a freezer clean out meal. We're going to follow that healthy meal up with some junk. I had a little bit of this chicken. It's buffalo chicken. It doesn't have the sauce on it yet. It's just frozen chicken at this point, but that's all I had left, which is not enough for my whole family. And I also had these steak fingers. Again, not enough for my whole family. So I'm just kind of shoving everything on this cookie sheet, and we're going to make some sandwiches. While that's cooking, I also have some, they're kind of like little tater tots, but they're flat. I've got them cooking in my air fryer. So I want to dip them in this. My oldest and I love this. It is just ketchup with some horseradish. And I probably have like 2 tablespoons of ketchup and 1 tablespoon of that horseradish sauce. So good if you like horseradish and ketchup. It's really bold, got a lot of flavor, and it's got that little spice from the horseradish. It's really nice. So everything is done cooking, and we're going to go ahead and assemble some sandwiches. This meal is so easy. I'm going to show you my son's sandwich. He's having a buffalo chicken one. The chicken finished cooking, and I just put the little sauce packet that came with it on it. I am putting some ranch dressing on the bun, and then I'm going to put on his chicken, a little lettuce, a little tomato, and we've got a meal. For my husband's, I did the same thing, but I added some cheese to it. I wish I would have thought to put pickles on it. Just didn't even think about it. That would have been really good. For mine, I had some of the steak fingers. It's like a dude sandwich from Dairy Queen if you live anywhere near a Dairy Queen. Really good, really tasty. Same thing, lettuce, tomatoes, no cheese on mine, and I used mayonnaise. And then, of course, we had the little, I think they're called like potato puffs or potato gems on the side. Those are one of our favorites. We really, really enjoy them. And that was dinner. So good, so delicious, so tasty. And it cleared some stuff out of my freezer, which is awesome. Okay, so I thought I was filming, but I wasn't. In this bowl, I have mixed together 2 egg yolks, 4 tablespoons of sugar, 4 tablespoons of, it called for milk. I used this heavy whipping cream because I had it and I need to use it up. 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 6 tablespoons of flour, and I've got to put in the last thing, which is a teaspoon of baking powder. So I doubled the recipe. I started off with following the recipe, and I'm looking at it going, oh my gosh, there's no way this is going to make enough pancakes for my whole family. So I have now doubled the recipe, and this is not all the pancake batter. This is just the beginning of it. So over here in this bowl, I have the egg whites from the 2 eggs that I used, and I'm going to add some more egg whites out of here. We're going to whip them up and then fold everything together and see if this recipe works. All right, again, I apologize for my camera difficulties. I don't know if it's me or the camera. I'm having this problem a lot, and I didn't have it before, and I kind of feel like I know I turned my camera on and it's not recording all of a sudden, and I'm not sure it's me, and I just replaced the batteries and it's suddenly dying on me. I don't know. Maybe I need new batteries. I'm not sure what the deal is. Anyway, I am making Japanese pancakes, souffle pancakes. I saw them under a bunch of different titles. I've been wanting to try this for a while, and this seemed like the perfect night. I'm glad I tried it. They weren't everything I expected, but they were nice. I would make them again, I suppose. So I've got my other ingredients mixed together, and now I'm just working on the egg whites. I just used my little hand blender thing there and whipped them up until they formed what I would call stiff peaks. If you've ever made like meringue cookies and stuff before, stiff peak face, that's what I went for. And that's really all there is to the batter, is the stuff I mixed up before. And the egg whites, you just want to really be gentle when you fold everything in together, just so you don't deflate those egg whites. You know, I worked really hard. It took me like 5 or 6 minutes of blending this to get them to the stage that I wanted. So I really wanted to be super careful so that they didn't lose all that air that I had put in there, and they would stay nice and fluffy. I've never made a souffle before, so I don't know. I think they're supposed to climb something. I think they have to climb the walls of like whatever you're cooking them in. This recipe didn't say anything about egg molds or anything like that. None of the ones that I had printed out did. So I think maybe if I had used some sort of egg mold and they had a wall to climb while they cooked, they might have gotten puffier, but that just wasn't the case for me, and you'll see that in a minute. So I let that set for just a second while I whipped together some sauce. I had this peach amaretto pecan preserves in my pantry, and I wanted to do something with them because they're so delicious. So I just put them in a little saucepan with some butter, and I let that simmer the whole time I was cooking these pancakes. And I just used that in place of syrup on our pancakes. So I am using coconut oil here in my pan to cook these, just because I thought coconut oil would probably be the best thing to pair it with. It doesn't have a strong taste, and it's not anything overwhelming, and it wasn't going to burn or smoke or get weird. So I put that in my skillet, and then I just put 3 nice dollops in the pan, and I put a lid on them because everything said to put a lid on them, and they puffed a little bit, but not much. They did not look like the pictures that I saw online or anything like that. I will say texture-wise, they were very different. They were incredibly light and incredibly airy. They were not bready or glutinous or anything like that. They were very different from other pancakes I've had. They didn't have a strong eggy taste or anything, and that could just be the sauce I put on them. But overall, they were fine, but it was a lot of work to not get that puffy effect. And as you can see, they are very hard to work with. All of mine I had trouble with when I went to flip them because they are not a sturdy pancake. They are so delicate that it's very difficult to flip them. And these weren't sticking to the pan. It's hard to get a grip on them to flip them over. But I did go ahead and cook all of the batter that I made, and truthfully, it was only enough for us to have for dinner. There were no leftovers. Typically, when I cook things like waffles or pancakes or something, there will be plenty left over for the rest of the week or to freeze or something. I doubled the recipe, and there still was not very much, because as you can see, these pancakes are not big. They're like silver dollar sized, and you'll see when I serve them, they're in a bowl, just like a cereal bowl, and I've got 3 of them in there with sauce on them. They're not big at all. So this did not make much. If you're making it for your family, I would definitely recommend at least doubling, if not tripling the recipe. I wish I would have tripled it. My oldest is 19, and he could probably have eaten a dozen of these because they are so light and airy, but he got 3 because that's what we had. Anyway, overall, this was a good recipe. There was nothing I didn't like about it. It just didn't do what the picture showed that it would. Maybe if I can get my hands on some kind of ring mold, I'll try it that way and see if it, rises up and puffs up and gets all neat looking. Otherwise, it was cool that they were so light and airy, and the sauce that I made to go on top was amazing. You could use any kind of jam or jelly that you have in your house to turn it into a syrup the same way I did. I just used about a tablespoon of butter and then that jelly and let it simmer until I was ready to serve it. Welcome to Taco Tuesday in my house. I am going to make some seasoned sirloin. I bought it pre-seasoned at Walmart. I do not love it. My guys do though, so they're going to be eating that. And I decided I would make myself some mushroom tacos. So I thickly sliced some baby Bella mushrooms. I'm going to season it with salt, pepper, garlic powder. No salt, pepper, garlic powder, and nutritional yeast. And then to that, I'm also going to add in some liquid smoke, so it has that like that grilled flavor that fajitas have, and then some Worcestershire sauce to give it that big, bold, beefy flavor. And I'm going to mix all of this together and let it just sit on my counter for probably about 10 or 15 minutes and just let it soak up all those flavors before I cook it. And I'm just going to cook it in a skillet on my stovetop with a little bit of butter, nothing fancy, but these were better than I expected. They tasted so much like beef fajitas. It was crazy. I loved these so much. I ate most of these by myself because once I cooked them and they cooked down, there wasn't a whole ton, but there was a little bit left over. I probably could have made a total of 3 tacos out of this. My son ate the rest because it tasted so good. He also ate some of that beef sirloin that I'm showing you there. This is a nice cut of meat. It slices great. It's not tough or anything. It's really tender. I just don't like the seasoning that Walmart put on there. That's the only thing that's wrong with it for me. But again, I'm picky about taco seasoning, so that's just how I am. And we just made tacos, simple, soft tacos. I had some homemade salsa, some lettuce. We put some cheese on some of them. They were good. It was a quick, easy meal, and that's the way I like it. Okay, so it is now Wednesday night. Typically, I am not doing much on Wednesdays, but this week I actually went grocery shopping on Wednesday because we had some homeschool group stuff going on Thursday. So I was looking for something easy, and I decided I was going to go with this pasta dish because it's frozen ravioli I'm using. I just had to whip up a little bit of sauce, so I figured it would be easy. I've actually already started some garlic in the oven roasting, and I did that last week. I just cut the top off a head of garlic, poured olive oil on it, wrapped it in foil, and let it roast 400 degrees. Originally, I did it for an hour. This time I did it for 45 minutes, which was much better. I did grate up about half a cup of Parmesan cheese, as you just saw. And now I'm over at my skillet. I've got some butter in there, and I added a little bit of olive oil just to keep everything from burning because I'm going to be cooking this for a little while. I'm going to use this to make a garlic cream sauce, which is really just, it's mostly like an Alfredo that I put a lot of roasted garlic in. So there is that. It was really good though. I did season it a little bit differently. To this butter and olive oil, I did add in a little bit over half that head of roasted garlic. The other half I've mixed with some butter on the side, and I'm just making garlic toast with it. I showed you guys that last week, so I'm not going to show it this week. I did the exact same thing. Roasted the garlic, mixed it with the butter, put it on the bread, toasted it in the oven. It was so good. If you have not tried roasted garlic bread before, wow, that is a game changer. So much better than just garlic powder and butter. Wow. Anyway, I'm letting this simmer. I've got the garlic in there. I'm going to add in my salt and my pepper. I'm just kind of letting that roasted garlic gently infuse into my butter and oil and just let that flavor kind of go all into everything so that it just really has a nice, big, bold flavor. And to this, I am adding some half and half. I probably should have used heavy cream, but I needed to use this up first because it was close to its expiration date. So I poured in what was left, which was probably like a cup of half and half. I'm going to let this simmer for just a few minutes, let it warm all the way through, get nice and get nice and warm and bubbly. So while that's doing its thing, I did go ahead and start dicing up some fresh tomatoes, and you can see my garlic toast is there in the back waiting to go in the oven. I'm using a pumpkin ravioli, and then I'm going to put a garlic cream sauce on there that's all really rich and creamy. And I felt like I needed some acidity to really brighten it up and kind of break up all those flavors. So I decided to go with these fresh tomatoes. I do need to use these up too. I've been snacking on them, but they're not going to last forever. So I do need to get them out of my fridge before they go bad. So I'm just going to go ahead and dice up a whole bunch of them. I probably did about a cup because I'm pretty generous with these on top of our pasta. Now that half and half is simmered, I'm adding in about half a teaspoon of sage and half a teaspoon of nutmeg. That brings a nice warmth to it, and that sage just pairs beautifully with the pumpkin ravioli. Then I'm dumping in that fresh grated Parmesan that you saw me shredding there at the very beginning of this segment. And I'm just going to cook this until the Parmesan melts, and then that is done. And to it, I'm going to go ahead and add in that ravioli. I've got it cooking just to the other side of this. You can't see it on camera, but it's boiling right next to this skillet. And as soon as it all floats to the top, I'm just putting it straight into this sauce so I can mix it all together, Some of that pasta water is coming in there, helping just make the sauce better and to coat the pasta so much better. And this was so good. It was very rich, like way, way too rich. I should have cut the serving sizes in half. But man, the flavors were so nice. That pumpkin ravioli is hard to pair with a lot of things. I'm never quite sure what to do with it. But man, this roasted garlic sauce was so perfect for it. And those tomatoes just cut right through with a beautiful vibrancy. And that garlic toast, of course, like I said, the roasted garlic bread is always a winner in my house. Okay, so for this night, I had actually, I was going to a homeschool thing later in the day. I was busy teaching homeschool while I was making this, so I'm trying to kind of cook this in parts throughout the day. I decided we were having a Greek dish for dinner, and I'm kind of throwing a lot of things together, but I decided I wanted some naan. This is a recipe I've never used before, and the only reason I tried it is because I actually have a sourdough starter that I've been working on for a couple of weeks now, and this particular naan recipe actually called for yeast. Most of the ones I see do not. But when I saw that it did, I thought, oh, this is the perfect opportunity for me to try out my sourdough starter. So that's what's in that jar right there. I did mix together my dry ingredients, my flour, my salt, my sugar in the big bowl. And then I have some warm water, some melted butter in this little blue bowl. And that's what I'm going to mix my sourdough starter in. I think I doubled this recipe. I feel like I did. I could be wrong though. I'll have to double check that. Anyway, I will link this recipe down below as well. You can use just regular yeast, but this sourdough starter was crazy good. I have not had sourdough naan before, so this was a real treat, and man, it was delicious. I'm just stirring that starter in, letting it kind of break up a little bit because it is kind of like thick and gooey. Once it broke up in that water, I went ahead and poured that in with my dry ingredients and started mixing everything together. Then I'm going to add that egg you see off to the side over there. Back in the back, you can't see it, I actually have my milk on the counter. This recipe called for 2 tablespoons of milk, which I forgot to add in. It was fine without it. They had the most beautiful texture in the world. I'm not certain that this really needed any more liquid. 2 tablespoons might have made it too sticky. I don't know. But just so you know, I messed up and I didn't include that, and it still worked out fine. So if you try this at home, I don't know which way to go with it. You might want to follow the recipe, but I'm just letting you know I didn't, and it was perfect. Anyway, I start off with a spatula in here, and I'm going to go pop a glove on here real quick because you really just have to get in there when you're working with the dough. You got to use your hands. So I put a glove on and I went to town kneading this and making it all come together, forming it into a nice ball, and then I just set it to the side because it has yeast in it. I set it to the side, covered it, and left it alone in a nice warm dry spot until I was ready to cook the stuff when I got home later in the day. Like I said, I'm teaching homeschool while I'm doing this. My kids are doing some independent work. We actually went to Altitude Trampoline Park with our homeschool group, which was so cool. My kids love meeting up with the rest of the kids in the group. They like to get out and play and do all kinds of fun stuff. And it's really fun to go do things like that in the middle of the day because happy hours from 2 to 4, everybody's still in school, so we get a price discount at Altitude. Plus, it's not super crowded, so my kids were able to play on everything, do all of the stuff. They were on the trapeze, they were jumping in the big foam pit, they climbed the rock wall, they did all of the things. So it was really, really fun. Anyway, like I said, I left that off to the side to rise. I did go teach a little while longer, then I came back in the kitchen. I am going to make a little fresh vegetable salad. I am going to just peel and dice up this cucumber, and I'm going to put most of it in one bowl for this little salad I'm making. And then I'm going to put a little bit more finely diced into the small bowl. I'm also going to make some homemade tzatziki sauce. I've shown this before, but I will kind of run through it in here again. You can grate your garlic. You can put everything in a food processor. It's totally up to you. I just kind of am lazy and don't want to wash all that, and this works out fine for me. And I like texture. I like big chunks. So for me, I prefer to have like big chunks of cucumber in my tzatziki sauce. A lot of people don't. That's why I say you could grate it on a cheese grater or you could put it in a food processor. Just whatever works for you, whatever you like. I'm also making this vegetable salad, so I'm leaving those chunks a little bit bigger. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to pickle this cucumber. I'm going to dice up the cucumber. I'm going to dice up some tomatoes. I'm really trying to work my way through those little tiny tomatoes this week. I don't want them to go bad on me. They're kind of expensive at H-E-B and they're my favorite. Usually I go through them really quickly, and for some reason this time I just didn't, so I'm using them where I can. Anyway, I diced up those and the cucumber, and then a little bit of onion, because I think onion pairs beautifully with Greek food, like fresh onion. And I'm going to put it in a bowl and then mix it with that Greek dressing you see sitting on the counter, because that is just like a vinaigrette. There's a lot of vinegar in it. It'll essentially pickle the cucumber. So I'm doing this early enough in the day where these have a couple of hours, like 2, maybe 3 hours, to mix and mingle before we're ready to eat them, and they will really soak up that flavor. It changes the texture of the onions and the tomatoes. It makes everything so delicious and kind of pickled and yummy. Anyway, I'm going to finish with the cucumber, making the tzatziki sauce. Again, I've done this before on my channel, but I'm going to show you guys again just because I'm here doing it. A really fine mince on that cucumber. I'm going to add in some fresh dill. If you don't have fresh, you can use the stuff in your spice cabinet. That's typically what I use, but I actually had fresh dill on hand, which was awesome. I'm going to put in some lemon juice, some salt, and some pepper, and then some yogurt. Typically, I see people say you're supposed to use Greek yogurt. I usually just use plain yogurt, regular yogurt, which is what I'm using today, but this was like super thick. Could have fooled me. I really thought it was Greek yogurt. It was so thick, but it's not. It's just plain yogurt. Anyway, mix it all up. I like to make it ahead of time because I like for the cucumber flavor to really mix into the yogurt. So try to give yourself at least an hour if you can to get this together, but minimum 30 minutes, it tastes much better that way. Pop it in your fridge, let it do its thing.
I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. I'm trying to make this darkness go away. I'll paint with colors and I'll sing until my lungs give out. I'm gonna let the sun shine in today. And I will leave my windows open so that I can hear the sound of people talking and the wind blowing in the trees. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day. I'm gonna let the past be filled with smoke. And I will try to fix what has been broken. And take this weight off my shoulders, 'cause I know yesterday ain't coming back. I'm gonna let the past stay in the cold. I will listen to the ocean, let its unsaid words be spoken. And I'll let my mind be carried by the waves. Oh, I will open up my eyes so I can see the light. Oh, and I'll try to spread my wings so I can fly. Oh, and the darkness starts to fade. Feels like things are gonna go my way. I'm gonna let the sun shine in the day.
All right, it is officially time to cook. I am actually going to serve some chicken with this, which I don't show you on camera. It is some frozen chicken shawarma meat. It's pre-cooked. You can heat it up in the microwave or you can throw it in a skillet just to heat it through. And that's what I use for this dish. I've already cooked some plain white rice, which you will see when I plate this up. Basically, I did a bed of white rice. I topped it with that frozen chicken shawarma meat, which I was just trying to use up and get out of my freezer at this point. I put a little of the vegetable salad, a little bit of the tzatziki sauce. I served it on the side with this fresh naan bread, and then I whipped up a really quick batch of hummus. I didn't show you guys. I will try to do that in the future. It's totally simple. Garbanzo beans, lemon juice, garlic, tahini, salt, and pepper. That's all I put in mine. Super simple, but I will try to show you guys that in a future video. Anyway, that was what I made for dinner. But for now, let's work on this naan bread. This was the star of the show. Let me tell you, it was amazing. While I was cooking all of this, my oldest and I actually just sat down and ate a piece of this. It was so delicious just on its own. I'm rolling these out, and I'm not looking to get them thin because they have yeast in them. Obviously, they're going to rise a little bit just while they wait for me to finish rolling everything out and heat up the skillet. So I'm not too concerned with how thin they are. I'm just more concerned with getting them to a size I know I like. They're going to shrink a little bit after you stop rolling them out, and they're going to shrink just a tiny bit more when you put them on that hot surface. So roll them just a little bigger than you want them. That's just kind of my rule of thumb for this kind of stuff. Same thing with pizza dough. Roll it just a little bigger than you want because it will shrink just a little bit. I did use flour while I was rolling this out. It wasn't terribly sticky though. I think I probably wouldn't have to use flour. The texture of this dough was amazing. It was so soft. I mean, incredibly pillowy soft. And when I cooked it, it was still incredibly pillowy soft. I've made naan a bunch of times in my life. We actually really enjoy flatbread quite a bit. This was the best naan I've ever had, by far best naan I've ever made. It was so delicious. I have heated up my griddle there, and I'm just tossing that flatbread on there and letting it cook on both sides. And you'll see as it's cooking, it does start to kind of bubble up a little bit, just like cooking tortillas, raw tortillas. You'll see it bubble as it starts to steam on the inside. It forms those air pockets. And that's when you know it's cooking, and you know when to flip it over when there's a whole bunch of big bubbles in it. That's my rule of thumb. And of course, once you see those and you flip it, it's all nice and brown and golden on the other side and delicious and perfect and yummy. That's exactly what you want. I do have some butter melting in my microwave. I've never done this or my naan before, but I did choose to do it today. You can melt some butter and then brush it on the naan just to kind of add a little extra bit of flavor. I decided I would try it today, and wow, that step was totally worth it. It was so good. There's those bubbles I was talking about, the little air pockets. Go ahead and flip it when you see those. And look at that, we've got some beautiful browning on there. It's cooked, it looks delicious. I did realize at this point my griddle was a little off center, so I did try to fix that. But I'm just gonna cook these until they're done and they're nicely browned and they're brushed with butter. And I can't remember how many I got out of this. I wanna say 8, maybe 9 for the total batch, but oh wow. We'll be making these again for sure. I'm actually thinking about using these in the future for pizza crust. I actually made pizza a few days after this. It'll be in my next week's video. But the whole time I was thinking to myself, man, I wish this was on that naan bread. That would be so much better. So stay tuned. I think that's something we're going to try to throw together in the near future. But this whole meal was so delicious. It was healthy and it was fresh and it was tasty. And oh, it was so good. Plus it cleared stuff out of my fridge and freezer. And that is always a win. All right, so that is what I made for my family over the past week. If you guys like this kind of content, be sure and click the like and subscribe button so you can keep up with all of my videos. Plus, YouTube loves it when people do that. It really helps with the algorithm, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I appreciate all your support here on my channel, and I will see you guys soon with another video. Bye.